So I want to ask the question: what is culture there? So we've looked at high performance. Now, what is culture? And culture actually means to care. And this is I mean, we're schoolboy rugby coaches. This is what it's about. And when we break it down, our head coach in Netherlands, New Zealand guy by the name of Zane Gardner, we sat down and we came up with culture is actually something you do. There is no, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. It is actually something that you do. It's what you do that drives your behavior. That behavior drives your expectations and beliefs. Because suddenly you go like, but hang on, I can do this. Suddenly when you start believing stuff and you expecting stuff, your behavior changes. Your behavior becomes better. And as soon as you start doing that, that becomes habits. Getting up at 5 in the morning, going late to bed when work needs to be done. So your habits change. And as soon as you create habits, that creates the future. And I think it's extremely powerful that if, you know, you got to sell a dream to your team, you got to sell a dream to your coaches, you got to sell a dream to wherever you want to go. And if people buy into that dream and you then expect of each other to how are we going to get there, and they actually believe they can get there, suddenly people go like, but hang on, I'm willing to sacrifice to get there. I'm willing to get up in the morning. I'm willing to create what I'm doing. I'm willing, player that's overweight, I'm willing to change the way I eat and train to get to where I need to be. So in a nutshell, this is what culture actually is how much do we care to create the future that we want. So why is it important? I know there's a lot of writing on this, guys, but it's important that you understand. Culture is a tool that improves our ability to function effectively and efficiently in groups. Unfortunately, the sport that we are in, you know, the individuals don't count. We need to work in a group, and I think we've all been long enough in the game to really understand that you get one guy in that group that does not buy in, you get one what we call a fruit apple, that spoils the whole bunch. So it's very important that we function efficiently and effectively in a group.
Hein,
yeah.
Clinton has a question.
Clinton, gooi.
Yes, it's actually not a question. I just want to quickly come in on that care. I think it's such a powerful word. And I think when the Boks kind of prepared for the World Cup, and there was that whole conversation around culture, and it's actually comes down to literally, do you care? So that's kind of something we've taken on board at Bosch. Just so the coaches, all I need to know from them is, do they care? Because if they do care, they will kind of be the voice. They'll worry about the things that I worry about, you know, or they about pushing the things that we want to see in the program if they really care. And I think in the Marines and that there's maybe 3 questions they ask anybody that wants to come on board. And the one question is, do you care? And it's such a powerful thing. So this year we had, I think, excuse my pronunciation, Siakatala is even the Xhosa word for we care as coaches. So we've kind of taken that on board, and it's been really simple, but very effective.
And Clinton, that's actually, I mean, if you ask 9 out of 10 schoolboy coaches why do they coach, I think that's the answer. We are fortunate enough, we've got 5 boarding houses, and I think 850 of our boys are all on campus 24/7. So, you know, taking that care for us and where I'm now to a next level is the easiest thing to do, because boys have access to you 24/7. It comes with disadvantages, but I mean, you can take that care and culture to a next level and use that to your advantage. It builds relationships, and that's how you build a team. And rugby is all about relationships, on the field, off the field. We need teamwork to achieve success. And then this is the most important thing for everybody out there. Culture is the one thing that you can grow, and it's the one thing that's 100% within your control. the way your team behaves, what the team does, your culture within your team is absolutely 100% within your control. And you can manipulate it any way you like. The drawback of that is it takes time and effort. And are you willing to do that when you get there? So I went and then started looking at but purpose. And I think we've spoken about it as our why. Why are we here? You need to fully understand why your players play the game, and you need to fully understand why your coaches coach. When we get later to the schoolboy program, I'll show you what we did with the program here for next year to accommodate that within our program for coaches and players alike. But you need to understand why people want to sacrifice and commit to that. And you understand it's not just the results, but it's also why you exist. And once you understand why people do things, you will get a clearer picture of who they are. And these things do take time. It's a lot of conversations. And if I can give you a tip, try to have conversations with people informally, over tea time or in the car park, or that's when you get the true value of things. Even with boys, as soon as you tell a boy, please come see me, he walks into your office, and you're always going to hear what you want to hear. You're never going to hear what you should hear. Always make sure there's no barrier between you and somebody speaking. So when you have a conversation with somebody and you want to find out why, how, what, those types of things, never sit behind a desk. The small things like that makes a massive difference. You'll find that you have the most meaningful conversations with coaches, players, parents, before games, after games, before trainings, after trainings, never in a formal setting, because then things just go for a ball. It doesn't work. Unfortunately, let's finish. I want to finish on purpose. So this for me is the cycle a rugby player currently, when rugby became professional, now goes. In the middle, you will see that it's the purpose. Most players, all players start playing the game because they love it. They love the game. They've got a passion for the game. Suddenly they realize, oh my hell, I'm playing Grand Como, Craven Week. I've got a bit of talent. I select for SA schools. I've signed a contract somewhere. Suddenly rugby becomes professional for them. They realize they can make a little bit of money, and they lose sight of the fact that I've got talent and I actually love and have a passion. And rugby becomes a job. It becomes a necessity for them to really, I need to do this, otherwise I can't pay my bills at the end of the day. And we need to then get them back to the love of the game. So if you look at, I don't want to blanket it, but I probably want to say 75% of professional rugby players play brilliant rugby when they're young. They go off the boil because rugby becomes a necessity. And then when they get into their 30s, they go like, you know what? I'm just going to jaw because I really love the game, and they start playing proper rugby again. And all in the middle is you've got to understand what is the purpose of that thing. Where in this circle does the player that I coach fit in? And lucky for us, most of us currently are in the love of the talent thing. And then, I mean, Katlego, you sort of moving into the money part where they're at university with Wits, and it can become a profession for them. You've got to get them back. Anybody has an experience with this? Nope. Okay.
Yeah, Hein. With my first experience now coaching at club level, it's been very interesting because there's a mix of all of it. There's some players where we've said to them, just be honest with us and let's, we had a sort of a chat trying to steer our season back on track.
Yeah.
And we said, look, if you're playing for the money, then say so. But let's give the reasons why we're all doing it and why we're into it, And some of the guys wanted to sort of get back to the professional. They maybe had a contract and now they're trying to work back into some sort of contract again. Some players are just there for the brotherhood, and they're just so passionate about the game and they love what the game brings. All the extras, the brotherhood, the friendships, and that's what keeps them coming back. even though they have, day jobs and yet, I mean, we have players who drive from Witbank to come and train in Pretoria 3 times a week, purely because they absolutely love it, and they enjoy being with the guys. And so yeah, I 100% agree with you that it may all differ, but as soon as you can actually get people to acknowledge what it is that keeps bringing them back and wanting to succeed, then I mean, we could, as coaches, we could use that, and I don't think we always do.
Can I ask the question? So as management, you're obviously aware of this, where the players are. Does the other players know the why of other players?
So before we started in the season, they didn't. And when we had the chat to say how do we pull it together, I said we need to make us a team.
Yeah.
So we actually, I did a little Google form thing and I sent it out. Everyone answered, and then one of the practices, because you know how it goes, club. Some days you have less players, some days you have more. I waited for the day where everyone was there. Which is normally the day before a game. Then we went up into the cloaks and I put it up on the projector just to, the first 30 minutes. And I said, guys, these are the answers you've given me. Let's chat through it. Who falls under this one? Love for the game and the brotherhood. Who falls under the money? And each player had to sort of, say, guys, I'm here for the money. I need it because of this and this and whatever else it is, so that it was clear to everyone around why we were there and what it is we were hoping to achieve. And after that, we then tried to find a common ground and a common goal to say, right, for you and you and you to achieve all of this or to get what you want from it, then this is the path that we're going to need to take. And it's made a massive difference so far.
It does, eh? It does. Yeah. So in that is then I now need to ask you, or you're going to ask me, but this is all great, but how do I build a culture? I've given you a template on what you need to do to get a high performance part. And ultimately, I also need to give you some one-liner on how to build culture, because like I said, it is within your control. So linking this then to the high performance part is we need to clearly understand what is the goals we want to achieve as individuals, as an organization, as a team. And these need to be clearly defined. I've shown you what our goals are as college coaches, and nowhere within that does it say we need to win, because I'm a firm believer if we tick all those boxes that we put on that one page, the results will look after itself. The boys will play proper rugby and we will be successful on the score sheet. So the very first thing you need to do, and it comes with the alignment, is what are the goals? And you've got to break those down deep. What I mean is literally what is the goals of the individual, what is the goals of the team, and what is the goals of the organization. And that needs to be clear and communicated to everything. Once you've done that, the second step is you need to build in safety. Human beings are, let's put it this way. I was a very analytical thinker, and the older I get, the more philosophical I get. People want to be safe. People want to know that doesn't matter what happened, I'm going to be okay. So you need to find a way to build safety within what you do, where people go, I'm comfortable working there. I'm comfortable being in the environment that I am while being uncomfortable in other areas. Step one, how you build that safety. I'm not going to give you guidelines how to do that. There's a million ways within your setup how you can build safety, but you need to find a way where people feel safe. The second thing is once they are safe, people will then need to be vulnerable. And to give you a great example here, my last year at the Pumas, Brent Janssen van Rensburg came on as head coach, and we had an evening somewhere in the hills, somewhere in the bush, and Tim Goodenough came along. And we did a session around the fire. We had a few beers, the whole team sat down, and you had to share your life story. And it's amazing how for some people that came easy, for other guys it didn't, but it sort of opened a little bit of vulnerability. Where suddenly when we got back into the pitch and somebody questions you as a coach, you don't see it as an attack, but you go like, oh, hang on, this actually got a point. Or one of your management comes to you and say, you know what about this? And our default nature is to go on the attack, where if we are all vulnerable, we can all go, but hang on, right, wrong, so we become vulnerable, and we know that I'm going to be okay because I'm safe. I'm not going to be kicked to the curb. So once you've got people that feel safe and they can open up in that environment and say what they want to say without being judged, then this is the most important thing. You get accountability. So now I can hold you accountable. So let's say, for instance, Tertius is in my program and Tertius screws ups along the line. He knows that I'm going to hold him accountable for that. And the same goes the other way. But because I'm holding him accountable and I call him in and we have an uncomfortable conversation about, let's say, something big, he knows that he's going to be okay. I'm not going to just kick him out. And I think in professional rugby, that's where we're getting it wrong currently, is where people hold other people accountable, but there's no safety. We kick them to the curb much too easy. And that's why people are holding all their cards against their chest. And it's a very tough act to follow, very tough balance to have, because how do you empower people and give them responsibility without giving them the opportunity to fail? People must fail to learn. Players must fail. Players must screw up for them to learn to go forward. Because like I said previously, the ideal world doesn't exist. And if you think you're there, you got to create an artificial thing for them to fail. Otherwise, they will never learn. And we got to hold each other accountable. And only once we have these 3 layers of foundation do we get to where we all think culture comes in, and we have a big meeting with the team and we say, okay, cool. What is our values? What are our standards? What are we going to put on the board? But you're never going to get the true values and the true what player thinks if you haven't built those bottom 3 layers. And if you have that as a foundation, you will achieve the goals that you have at the top. Does this make sense to you guys?
Yes, Hein, it does. I actually want to share something with you that I've kind of built up. I don't know how many of the guys here know Castleswyk Comprehensive Guys School, but the players and the coaches are not very willing to be open and emotional and vulnerable and those type of things. And I've really struggled with that and done a couple of courses, spoken to a couple of experts. So I just wanted to share with the guys what I do, which is something you guys can use to help build that safety and vulnerability. Is with the 3D course we did session 1 where you had to wear a cap or a shirt and then tell the story behind it. So I kind of did it in a 4-step process to get them more comfortable. On the first session, the guys had to wear a cap or a shirt or a t-shirt or a team jersey that was very valuable to them, and share with the guys why. Why is this cap so important to you? Why is this shirt so important to you? So then you start with that little bit of, I feel comfortable to share. Yeah. The second day, what we did was we just sat in a circle and we said, this is what you're going to do. We're going to go around in a circle and you're going to say, hi, my name is Tertius, and you're going to tell me 2 topics that you like to talk about. So for me, it would be, hi, my name is Tertius. You can talk to me about golf and rugby. And now the guys see what each other's interests are. So if there's somebody in the group or in the team that you're not comfortable to talk about, I know now, okay, Hein likes golf and I like golf. So let's talk about golf. Let's talk about the Ryder Cup or whatever. And then the third step was, at a training session, we asked them to bring something sentimental or tell us about something that's very adds sentimental value to you. If you feel it's too valuable, you don't want to bring it to the session. So now the guys are starting to share about something that's important to them, and now they're getting vulnerable. Now they're opening up, and everybody's seeing, wow, we've got some cool stories about somebody who had a ring from a great-grandfather that came into Africa, that lived in horrible situations, and you start building that trust. And then the fourth and the final step that I wanted to get them to was, now tell me what is your biggest fear in this group, and tell me what is your biggest goal for this group. And then the guys are really comfortable, and now we're talking about things that are uncomfortable. I have this fear that I'm not going to achieve, and I want the guys next to me to prevent me from having this fear. And yeah, that was just like a 4-step thing that I thought worked very well for us in a group of people that are not emotionally comfortable with talking about that type of stuff.
And the challenge is that the slide that's on there, I mean, that's how you build culture, is that that takes time. This process really takes time. This is not something, because what do we generally do as rugby coaches? We need to tick the culture box, so we have a weekend away and then we never speak about culture again. But if you remember, it's something that happens every single day. It's the accountability that comes every single day. Is are you on time? Does the oak feel safe to tell you that, sorry, coach, my mom was late because she's a domestic worker and she couldn't get the taxi, and you got to create that environment, and it takes time for that to happen. I would actually go as far as to say that this is a 3-year, 4-year process within an organization if you want to get it 100% spot on.
Senthil, you've got your hand up. You can unmute.
Yeah, so and I like just on these bottom topics about like accountability and vulnerability and safety. I read a very, very interesting book called The Culture Code by Dan Coyle, and he just talks about like organizations that work really well, and they're actually organizations that are where the leaders and the people inside the organizations are constantly sending messages of I see you, we're connected, and we share a future together. Like we sometimes think that we set really high standards and we have good values, and if people are accountable, things will work. But I think it's really organizations where people and like leaders and players alike feel like, geez, these people we're connected to we care deeply about whatever it is we're doing and the people around us, but that we're constantly sending those messages of I see you, we're connected, and we share a future together. So people feel comfortable to try at 100%, and if they fail, they feel like it's an environment where they feel really safe, where we can come back tomorrow and we can try again. And so yeah, just sending those messages constantly of we're connected and we're together.
Culture Code's a great book. I actually read it about a year or so ago, and what people don't realize is that sending those messages is a conscious thing. It just for some people it happens naturally, but for most of us it's a conscious decision that we need to make to keep on working on these things. You need to think about it, and you need to put a conscious effort into doing it. Otherwise the culture breaks down. And most top leaders, if you speak to them, it's the small things that matter, like you said, but it's a conscious effort 24/7 to get this right. Right. So within that, and especially in the team environment, there is a challenge, because you can work on one big culture, but within your club or your school, there is certain things, especially, the older the school, the more there are. Every team within that school has got will have a different culture because of the makeup of the individuals within that team. It will be different. Within that team, you'll have forwards and backs, or different other subcultures, and then you're going to have guys that with a high performance spot. So you need to find a way to interlink all these cultures with each other, and that is it's an immense challenge, and really, really, really tough. And it's if you have any ideas how to interlink these, please get in touch with me. It's still something I constantly struggle with. You've got forwards, backs. You've got a school that says for 160 years we've done it like this. Why do you want to do it like that? And how do we interlink these things and make get to these things, but still keep these cultures that are sometimes there in place. So just quickly then wrapping up the culture part is that it's important that people understand what you want to do and you make them feel part of that. You got to make sure that people connect to each other and that they live this culture and breathe it, especially when it goes tough. And then here's the one thing, that if your culture within your team is good, it is visible. You can see it a mile away. and that will attract people to your team. I went to watch a primary school game. Where are we now? Friday. I went to watch a primary school game on Wednesday afternoon. And the one team, bigger, stronger, faster, everything than, and then the other team is, I mean, little under 13s running out, and I'm like, oof, this one team's going to smash the other team. And the big, stronger, faster team scored in the last minute to win the game. And from the get-go, you could see the smaller team on the other side. They just more organized. They just looked more, you know, as a unit than the bunch of individuals. Yet the individuals won in the end. But that attracted everybody. Everybody was like, oh, that's great. Look at these guys. Look at them. And the culture, just whatever they created within that team was visible, and you could see it, and it attracted parents, everybody on the side. You also need to remember that you need to recognize that when your culture is bad, or if there is something that's bad within your culture, and you need to get rid of it ASAP, as soon as you can. But you need to recognize and get that done. So, what is the way forward? How do we combine these two with each other? You need to make sure your systems, your components, and that team and individual aspects, you need to make sure you tick those boxes. As a coach, as a director of rugby, you need to make sure all those things are in place. You need to make sure that you have safety, vulnerability, and we work towards a combined purpose, especially for those individuals and the team. And then you are responsible for the energy that you bring towards that program. You need to make sure that you look after the individual, because then you look after the team as well. And you need to make sure that you know what the future orientation of your organization is going to look like. And those are all interlinked. If you can tick those 9 boxes, you will definitely have a combination of high performance and culture. And you would have seen now that these are all interlinked. High performance and culture, you know, even though there's different boxes, they are definitely interlinked and cannot function independently. I got to stress this: they cannot function independently. You can't have the one without the other. You got to do them together and work. So before I move on to what I want to share with you about a schoolboy program, is that, and this is the question I've asked previously, is how do we then create and stimulate a culture that supports and encourages a high performance environment while our athletes are feeling comfortable being uncomfortable? What do I do? How do I take them out of their comfort zone and they go like, oh, I can do this? And I do think if you are in a program where you've got all the facilities and everything, it should be then the way you train. What do you do within your training sessions to make it uncomfortable? And I'll use a simple example now, is that we generally at college in the past, sessions was 2 hours long. I've now taken it away. You have 75 minutes twice a week next year to make it happen. So I'm actually putting the coach and the players under pressure to get more done in less time, if you understand what I'm saying. To put them in an uncomfortable position, but they need to get comfortable in doing that. But I'm not going to give them the tools in the off season how to be comfortable in that shorter time span that they have. And if you have any ideas out there or ideas come up, please let me know how you would do that. I would really like to see and learn.